I'm Christophe. I'm the founder of FoodLabs. We're the most active early stage investor when it comes to food and climate in Europe. Today I have with me three of the most exciting and promising early stage company. We invest around 50 companies per fund. We now have a 130 million fund, and do it from agriculture, new protein, new product, all the way down to waste. Why is this important? I mean, the first element is actually food security. We believe entrepreneurs will help us feed the world. The food industry is the second largest industry in the world, only after real estate. And it's probably the industry with the most externalities. We can't simply go on as we have done so far. And thirdly, this is about climate. I mean, more than 30% of our greenhouse emissions are being produced in this space, and it's probably the one area where we can have the biggest impact. So starting with you, Felix, starting with agriculture, soil, tell us a little bit what you do. I understand that you have a technology to capture more carbon.
Exactly. Yeah, so the whole story started 2 years ago. I was running a software as a service company as founder and CEO, and I started to offset all the non-avoidable CO2 emissions. And I realized there's no real technology out there to remove carbon effectively and durable from the atmosphere. So I was looking into different technologies, and on a long car ride through Brazil with my current co-founder, I got aware of enhanced rock weathering. And rock weathering is one of the most important natural solutions the Earth has to get CO2 out of the atmosphere. Basically, when some of the rocks starting to weather, so if atmospheric CO2 gets into rainwater, it's falling down, dissolving the rocks, then some of the minerals in the rocks, they're reacting with the carbon from the rainwater. And then are forming bicarbonates, which are making sure that the carbon cannot get back to the atmosphere. And 99% of all the carbon we sequestered, and the Earth has sequestered the last couple of million years, went through this process. And we are now accelerating this process. So we're taking rock powder residues. We see that in a lot of mines, there's some side streams which a lot of residues are existing. We're taking those residues and we're spreading them on farmland. And then on those farmlands, the carbon is getting sequestered through this enhanced rock weathering process I just described. And then the second super exciting thing is that some of the minerals, not only capturing the carbon, they are also fertilizing the soils. That means the farmers can reduce chemicals and pesticides, which is not only good for their balance sheet because they're reducing cost, it's also great because they're avoiding a lot of CO2, which normally is needed to produce those fertilizers.
So I understand enhanced weathering is probably one of the most impactful way to reduce carbon emission. Generally speaking, how big can this be? Both for the world and for you as a company.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we need solutions which are scalable, affordable, and also permanent. If our carbon or our technology is used, the carbon is sequestered for 100,000 of years. We have 8 gigatons of rock powder residues in Brazil, our current focus market, which we can turn into 1 gigaton, so 1 billion tons of carbon removal. And then also it's affordable because we're taking existing waste and spread it on existing farmland, so we don't have to build a lot of infrastructure. We're trying to get to 1 megaton, so 1 million tons until 2026, which is leading to a revenue of around 200 million euros, and then really moving forward to capture 1 gigaton as soon as possible, so 1 billion tons. If you look at the statistics and the numbers, we as a society need until 2050, according to the World Climate Council, at least 15 to 20 billion tons of carbon removal. And today we have a couple of 100 millions maximum.
Sounds very exciting. Moving away from agriculture, in fact, producing food without agriculture, I understand it's a fermentation farming. Isabella, maybe you can share with us what you're doing and how you produce food in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Isabella. I'm the founder and CEO of Bosque Foods. We are a biomass fermentation company where we produce mycelium, an ingredient that can be used for not only the food industry, for alternative proteins, but also for functional ingredients, the cosmetics, the built environment, a number of different industries that need bio-based solutions. We're focusing first on food, of course, because we see that that's where we can make the biggest climate impact. And the way that we can do that is by essentially rapidly growing one of the most future-proof ways of growing food, and using that as an ingredient to create, for example, the next generation of meat alternatives. So we're focused first on chicken and pork and basically creating an analog that will deliver in the ways that current alternatives that are on the shelves today are not. So we're creating products that have incredible taste and texture parity while being completely clean label, minimally processed, which means a label of less than, for example, 7 ingredients, while being able to actually reach price parity with animal meat at scale. So this is something that the current alternatives in the market, for example, from the likes of plant-based companies, have been facing challenges for decades, and we're able to actually check all of the boxes for consumers on price, taste, texture, and being actually clean. And I think in terms of the advantages for growing food, again, by using fermentation and using this fermentation platform, we can actually rapidly grow an ingredient that's 98% faster than not only meat, right? So it takes years to grow actual animal protein, but plant proteins as well, where it takes months. It actually takes us days to be able to create the same amount of protein. So there's the actual time for production, but there's also the fact that this is future-proof. So we're able to grow this, as you mentioned, without agriculture. This is something that's utilizing something akin to indoor urban agriculture, not the same thing, but it'll give you a visual idea of that, which means that we are actually not reliant and we're not limited by the types of things that will be impacted by climate change in the future. So it's a future-proof way of creating food. It's a way to create actually higher value products and products that can actually help bring consumers over to the side of eating less animal products, which is what we all know we need to do if we want to actually bring down the carbon footprint of the animal agriculture industry. Yeah.
I just had the opportunity to taste your product. I must say it was very convincing. Tell us quickly why is this a superior way to produce protein versus plant-based? And maybe tell us a little bit, as I believe you are soon to raise a round to scale up.
So just in comparison to plant protein, again, whereas that's relying on like regular agriculture, mass agriculture, we can actually grow this in a matter of days. We're also growing an ingredient that is incredibly healthy. So this is super high actually, in protein, in fiber, no fat, no cholesterol, and a source of micronutrients. So it's an incredibly healthy ingredient, but the way that we actually grow our mycelium allows us to be able to grow it into a solid structure that is as close to the end product, i.e. a meat alternative, as you're going to get, which means that our product actually involves incredibly little downstream processing, little additional ingredients, which means that it's basically a whole food meat alternative that can still actually, I'd say, outperform existing products on the market. So I think for all of those reasons, where it comes to health, nutrition, having something that's clean and what consumers are going to want to actually adopt into their diet, so they're not going to see this as a junk food or an ultra-processed product, while being able, sometimes, unfortunately, most importantly, to be low cost is, I think, what's going to make the difference for consumers. Yeah. And yes, we are raising a round right now. So if anybody is interested in investing in fermentation-enabled technologies, platforms that can also be addressing, climate change and food, then get in touch. Yeah.
So thank you. Moving one step further towards one of the biggest crises we are facing, which is plastic waste. Francis, tell us a little bit how you're solving plastic waste, how you do it, and why this is a breakthrough.
Sure. So my name is Francis. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Searo. Searo is a material technology company based in Cambridge, and we're developing the next generation of materials to replace plastic using seaweed. We use seaweed to make all the materials we make, which gives them the properties of being biodegradable, home compostable, but they look and feel like plastic. So they're perfect replacements for single-use packaging. A lot of applications in food, we're working on that, focusing on that very heavily at the moment. So when you go to a supermarket and you go to the fresh fruit and veg aisle and you're surrounded by plastic and your heart sinks, you can have some hope because someone's working on that problem.
Excellent. So, tell us a little bit how you produce your product. How is it going to fit into the existing production chain? And maybe some of the specific properties of your product had when it comes to shelf life, which is also another big problem when it comes to waste.
Sure. So the how number one, that's confidential. We filed some patents on that. But essentially, it comes down to trying to do as little to the polymer that's in the seaweed, the polysaccharide polymer, as possible. It's chemically unmodified in the final product, so it's the same polymer in the plant as in the product, which means that it readily biodegrades. Basically, things in the environment eat it, and the problem with plastic and bioplastic is that things don't like to eat it, right? That's why it doesn't go away. That's why it lasts forever. So everything we make biodegrades very rapidly. We also outperform plastic in some ways. So in the case of fresh produce, a problem that we saw when we looked into it with plastic packaging was the condensation that forms in the packaging. So when you buy some tomatoes, etc., you see condensation in the bottom, even in the supermarket, which leads to mold growth, premature spoilage, food waste. And food waste is having this huge environmental problem. A third of the food we produce is wasted. I think everyone knows that fact by now, but less well known is that half of the greenhouse gases from global food systems is from food waste. So our material, because it's breathable, it's not like plastic, it's breathable, it has a soft barrier to moisture. It allows that to escape so that when the fresh produce is respiring, it doesn't get condensation, it doesn't get mold, and we can extend shelf life. And even if we do that for just one day in global supply chains, that's a massive, massive impact. That means supermarkets have more time to sell the produce, supply chains have more time, more resilient, and consumers, of course, have got more time to eat the food.
Excellent. So we're coming to an end. I hope we were able to share some of our enthusiasm for entrepreneurs who are having a huge impact. We're talking in the billions. We're talking about some of the largest CO2 emission that can be completely transformed. We're talking about the plastic crisis that can be solved. All of this can be done through entrepreneurs like you. I hope you will join us in supporting more, and thank you very much for your time today.